What would the world look like if no one had sexual shame? What would the world look like if people felt autonomy over their own bodies? So I was hanging out with my dad and I talked about how I had a giant clit that I used to educate on stage, right? Because I have the life-size one that's the human body size, and I have this one when I'm on stage so I can show the clit. And he scoffed, he made fun of it. You think that's a big clit? That's not a big enough clit. Okay, Dad, well, what are you gonna do about it? And he's a woodworker, he loves to build things. And so he's like, I will build you a clit that's actually large enough for you to call it a giant clit. That's puny. He called it a puny clit. And I was like, Dad, this might be like one of the bigger clits and clit models in the world. And he's like, no, I wanna build like a 6 foot tall one. And so my dad is building me a giant clitoris. My name is Andrea Barrica. I'm the founder and CEO of O.school. And today we're talking about sex. There is what's called an orgasm gap. About 95% of the time, the straight man will have an orgasm, and that's compared to only 60-65% of the time that a straight woman has sex. And that's why we have to start with educating people about all the organs in their body. When I started to get obsessed with the problem that I'm solving at O.school, which is why are there no resources out there that are between like porn and medical websites like WebMD and Planned Parenthood, I started to tell people in my community about the business that I wanted to run, and everyone just told me not even to try. So yeah, have I been rejected? Tons of times. Have I been insulted? Tons of times. I've been called an idiot by billionaires. I had zero qualifications to do this business. In my heart, I knew that we could build something that could potentially help billions of people. Did your family talk about sex?
Oh, hell no. The only sex talk I ever got was, do not get pregnant. And it was like, all right, how do you even get pregnant? I mean, I knew what that meant like at that age, but I remember my mom specifically saying like, just don't get pregnant.
And when I got my period, my mom called all my relatives in front of me immediately.
Oh my God.
And it was this like instant kind of realization that in some ways my body didn't belong to me, it belonged to the family. When it came down to sex, I kind of knew intrinsically I couldn't ask. Like there was just, people ask me like, well, didn't you ever ask your parents about sex? I just knew that was not
part of the culture.
Not okay. My parents grew up, they're entirely in the Philippines, where they were really trying to raise us in like a Filipino way. And that was definitely a point of friction. My dad and I fought a lot. My dad and my mom, my brother, sister, and me. It's Catholic school, St. Joseph, Sacramento, 1995. Represent. Shame is a really interesting thing because it really implants early in us, and it's so hard to shake. It's almost like a veil gets put over us. I remember one of the most traumatic things I was ever told was being 14, being caught with a woman, or even just being caught saying like, think I might like girls. Like just even being caught in that space, the way that my family thought best to handle it was, to tell me that if you tell us right now that you're a lesbian and you like girls, then your baby sister, who you love more than any human in the whole world, can't sleep in your bed anymore, And it was like, to this day, it like just shocks me every time like, there's like a woman and it just like goes back to being 14 and being like, no, not gay. Can't be gay because Celine, my sister, is like too important to me to be gay. And it's stuff like that like you don't forget, and my parents have apologized for that and they know better now, but they're like, we freaked out. We didn't know. That was just what happened. And that happened when I was 14 and I'm 29 years old and I still go back to that and feeling like it's my sexuality or my family. I don't feel angry at my parents and my family because they didn't have any sex ed either. because I think my parents now would have done things way differently. Of course, my pain is still valid, but when I started to get to that point, forgiveness started to spring in my heart. Like I started to see them as people who were also hurt. And that process also helped me accept myself. And now my parents completely have apologized, and like we have an amazing relationship today. And I think that can come when, we realize that parents are people who have their own pain, and they really hurt me and it had lifelong effects. And that is why it's so important that I go out and tell people that don't do this to your children. You're learning about sex your whole life. It doesn't end. You can be 70 and learn new things. And even if you feel like you understand sex at one age, you have a baby, you get divorced, you learn that you have this new desire that you've never, thought of before. Maybe you come out as queer later in life, and it's all normal because we all live in a world where, a lot of these things are not okay, are taboo.
I remember my daughter one time was like, Mom, wait, you don't know what pansexual is? I was like, girl, school me. Sit me down and tell me, because I only grew up in a society and culture that only knew a handful of different sexualities. So please tell me, what are the other common sexualities that are out there?
And I'm still learning every day.
Yeah.
Every day my sexuality is blooming. And so what I also wish is that people in our generation learn from the younger generation. I think they have a lot to teach us. It's one of the oldest, best vibrators. You turn it on this way, and you can use it with a partner, without a partner, but this is I was building O.school for like 15-year-old me, who was really in pain and lost and really needed help. But I also am building it for my parents, and when they were young, because all of this is a cycle. My best vision for the world is every single human being on the planet gets educated about sex, their bodies, and has a place that's safe that they can talk about sexuality with during their hardest times. This work is healing, and this work is important, and that's enough for me.